really got me hooked the very first time. And so then I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to just tell all teaching stories, blah, blah, blah. So we had a finale maybe 2 months later where everybody that had won an open mic for like 2.5 months, like 13 of us, go up on the big stage, the 400-seat auditorium. Now I'm really nervous. Now I'm meeting famous comedians in the back, people that have been working the stage. Funny Maine, who tells all these Alabama jokes. Funny Maine comes up and says, oh, man, dude, you're going to do fine. I'm like, you've never heard me. How do you know I'm going to do well, I'm being a pessimist. Anyway, so I go up, I do my bit. I didn't do great because my jokes at that time were teacher, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
The audience at that time was a certain genre and whatnot and ethnic group.
Sometimes it just
doesn't work.
Yeah,
and,
they don't get your references.
Well, when you
similar background.
Right, and when you try to follow Stardom rules, which is medium content, no real bad words, I use the word prophylactic. Well, nobody in the audience, 80% of the people didn't know what prophylactic was. Well, and the joke was, and it actually happened to me. I took a girl to a party playing Pictionary, and on the card she's drawing animals on the card, and we're like dinosaur, flying pterodactyl, and she's like this, like, oh, flying pterodactyl, and then she, the sand, and she goes, it's the flying prophylactic. I said, you thought prophylactic was a dinosaur? So she was drawing dinosaurs. That was the joke I told, and it was crickets.
Yeah.
And so Bruce Ayers comes to me after the show and says, Rocky, man, some of that stuff was really funny, especially the prophylactic joke. I said, well, it really happened, but he said, yeah, but it went over everybody's head.
Yeah.
He said, you got to say condom or rubber or something like that. And I'm like, well, that's not what was written on the card.
That's not a funny word.
That's correct, and it wasn't on the card that you tried to draw. No, needless to say, I only dated that girl 2 more weeks.
It's like one time I used the word proboscis for nose.
You're right.
Because proboscis is a funnier word than nose.
Correct. Sure.
Cranium is funnier than head. Well, and comedians craft your jokes a lot of times based on words that are funny. And if the audience doesn't understand the word, but I've had people laugh at the word and didn't even know what it meant.
And a lot of that is because they don't know and they think, well, it must be funny.
It must be funny, everybody else is but somebody's got to laugh.
But I learned a lot by that first finale because when I go to Atlanta, over to Laughing Skull or Punchline, they kind of tell me the same thing. You need to have 2 sets of jokes for different groups of people ready because once you see them, now you know what set you need to do.
That's right.
And that taught me a lesson. It's really the only time. I won't say I bombed, but it was close. I had a couple of boos walking off.
And there's also a testing period for a comedian when you first get on stage, and you have that audience. You don't know them from jack.
Right.
And you stand up there and you throw out a couple of bits and see what they laugh at.
Fishing.
It's almost like fish. Yeah,
fishing.
Exactly. It's like fishing.
It is.
And so you're going to throw something and see what they bite on.
Right.
And then that's the direction you'll take your comedy.
Right. And of course.
And that's a good lesson to learn.
And people ask me that they tell me, they think I'm pretty good. And I'm like, well, look, I want to help you like I got help.
That's right.
And so I try to tell them, I go, okay, well, here's the order that you kind of need to look at. You need to slam them with really good material, your number 1 A-game material pretty early, medium number 3 material in the middle, and then get something good in the number 2 slot at the end, or a 1B. You better close as well as you opened.
Right.
And that's what I have learned through my jokes and through how to connect some of the stories I tell.
And see, and that's called hammocking in the business.
I'm glad you told me that. I didn't know the word for that.
I'll say A, B, and C materials the way I break mine up. The A jokes always hit, and the B jokes are strong material, but not as strong as the A. And the C are new stuff. New stuff I'm just working out, trying to work the language out, trying to work it. And so you hammock C jokes in between 2 A's or an A and B at the least.
That's correct.
You want something to you want to be on high coming in. It may dip down with that C joke, but then you want it to come right back up.
And I learned that.
Don't let the hammock get too big.
But see, but I had people tell me that.
Right.
They go, hey, this joke right here needs to be your number 1 or your A material. This joke here needs to be your C. It's good, but some people laugh at it, some people don't. If it's your new material, as you mentioned. And that's where I'm telling you, and I have told some of these younger comedians all these rules and stuff. You know, and reading books.
You need to pass that on.
Well, that's part of the duty, I think, as a comic. I think too many comics want to be so close-knit vest to their own material. You know, I don't want to tell you the secret because I don't want you to be better than me. I'm not like that.
But that, you know, I found, I've been doing comedy a lot longer than you have.
Oh, yeah. And 3 years for me.
But I noticed over the progression of my career, when I first started out, and you know, 2-3 years into it, headliners I worked with, features I worked with when I first started as an opening act, would do that. Well, they would critique my jokes. I had one headliner that gave me one of the best pieces of advice about one particular joke. He said, "Hey, you know that joke you tell?" And he did the joke, and I said, "Yes." And he said, "Take the punchline and make it the setup, and make the setup the punchline. I think it'll work better that way. Try it." Tried it the next night. Boom! It's the only thing I needed to make that joke an A joke.
Joke work really,
make
really well.
It work. And he saw it. Yeah. I didn't see it because I was too close to the material. He saw it and he said, "Hey, I think it would be funny the other way," and I tried it. If I would have just said, "No, I like the joke the way I am," that's not the way to take advice. I mean, other comedians are trying to help you.
Right.
And you look at somebody like that man and say, "I want to be like that guy," and he's telling me some information, some advice. I'm going to try to follow it.
I love it when people go, "Hey, Rocky, come here.
Yeah.
I got something good to tell you."
Yeah.
You know,
or,
and they go,
they tag you,
or they say, "Don't be offended if I tell you this."
Right.
And so, you know, and they'll say, "Hey, you got good stuff, but you're stepping on your next joke because you're trying to get in so much material in 5 minutes."
Right.
Let them laugh, and then if they're continually laughing, just make a stupid face. And so
there was a comedian at Happy Hour, female comedian I was working with. She was telling me a story before the show, and when she got done, I said, "You need to tell it." She'd never done that story before. It just happened to her that night.
Right.
The story. And I said, "If you don't get on stage, tell that story and say this." And I gave her a punchline. I said, "I'm going to kick you in the seat of the pants." She did it, and it killed. Because it was so spontaneous.
Right. That's what's funny.
Yeah.
What's funny is spontaneous, especially when everybody pretty much can relate to what you're doing or what you're saying.
But I've noticed this. The longer you go in the business, the less that happens. Because of what you just said. Now they see you as a threat. Now you're starting to take the jobs that they also take. And some comedians, like you said, will clam up.
I'm telling you.
I'll tell you another thing.
I'm telling you, I have worked.
Very competitive.
Yeah, and it switches. You know, I was down here, and these people that were I worked with, I maybe beat in a competition, or they've worked for me, and people laugh at my stuff and don't laugh at theirs. They don't text me and call me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you lose that contact.
You do.
But it's not that many. It's not that many, but you hate it because you're like, "Look, I wasn't competing with you. I was trying to be funny with you."
Right.
You know, there's a difference.
There
it's
is.
like when people talk about, you know, when I'm laughing at you because of what you did or laughing at what you said. It's totally different things.